So this was the process we went through. Nothing original about this process. Some of you, any of you who attended workshops run by Ginny Denny and Carla White last year that were run for ITOs, that you will recognise some of these things. So we started off by looking at analysing the demands. So we used the progressions triangle, analyse the demands, find out what the learner knows, and then work out what we were going to do. Well, we already knew number 3, we were going to use self-paced workbooks. So it was a question of analysing what the demands were. What of the unit standard 497, I'm sure a number of you know it really well. Of the learning environment, so we knew that they were going to be used in a self-paced way or a facilitated way, and also workplaces. And because of our experience in working in a number of workplaces, both service sector and manufacturing and others, we had quite a good idea of what the workplace demands would be, so that was okay. Then we had to think about how we could find out about what the trainees would know, and this was the dodgy part. For us at Workbase, when we're developing a resource, we really try, if we can, to actually talk to trainees and say, how would you like your resource to look like? What do you like? Do you like pictures? Do you like this or that? You know, how do you want us to start? And obviously there wasn't the opportunity to do this in this particular project. So what we did was we drew on my lengthy experience teaching health and safety. Plus, we actually were really lucky. We were able to access our own tutors and talk to our tutors and some of the trainees, some of our learners on our programs. So that was really useful. And then later we got a bit of feedback from the ITOs involved as well. And so having done that analysis, we then produced the material. Okay. So we had an ITO reference group, NZ ITO, because they own a unit standard 497, and it was great engaging with Carl, because Carl's notes, learner notes, study notes for 497 are 20 pages, and actually he's got good white space and quite a decent font size, and by the time the 4 guides are finished there, it's 120 pages. So he had a real... said, oh, that's what embedding means, eh? It gets bigger. I said, yeah, that's right. We also had really strong feedback loops. So we had feedback loops through the ITOs. So we gave the draft resources to the ITOs and asked them to trial them and give us feedback on them. And sometimes the trialling was more difficult because of the time of the year and what programs people were working on. And we also, through TEC, had feedback from Ginny Denny on the resources. So we had a number of people giving us feedback, as well as our workplace literacy tutors who gave us feedback and trialled the resources as well. So we got lots and lots of feedback. And, you know, it's formative assessment. Feedback is the fertiliser of learning, John Hattie says, and that was one of the times when sometimes the fertiliser was a bit high. But anyway, you just got to... we got some good feedback on the first draft, and the feedback was about it was a very telling sort of resource, you know. You do this, and you do that, and you do that. And so we really had to think about that, and we tried to reduce that. None of this will be a surprise to you. Start where the trainees are. So initially I had, because of my previous life, had the first workbook was about the Act, wasn't it, Sam? And I got feedback from my colleagues, tell you, they're the worst people to give you feedback actually, to say, Susan, you know, I know you like the Act, but get rid of it, put it somewhere else. So we did. We shifted it and we started with, you know, protective clothing and protective equipment. Lots of scaffolding, so building from what people know, lots of linking back to what they'd already learnt. Explicitly in the resources, there are opportunities to transfer what they've learnt, not only into the workplace, but also into the home and community situation. So it was like, okay, what have you learnt out of this book? Pick 2 things. There's a facility in the workbook where they had to fill in 2 transfer cards. So it might have been, I've learnt about protective equipment such as fire extinguishers, and my transfer is going to be, I'm going to buy one for home. we gave them examples so that they could see, but we really wanted them to not just learn something, but actually go and transfer it back to work, back to home. Thank you. We used the before, during and after framework, and we also put a whole lot of explicit activities around literacy and numeracy linked to the learning progressions. So this is what the front of the trainer guides look like, and this is just a word of how you could use these. We really suggest you customise them. You look at them, rather than use them as is, you customise them. Think about what's going to work for your context, what's going to work for your trainees, take out the stuff that they already know, maybe add in some stuff that's more relevant, change the pictures, change the protective clothing, because obviously what we did when we had a heavy industrial manufacturing slant is not going to work in hairdressing. One of my favourites. So choose the activities and then choose your delivery options. The workbooks are written for people at reading skills at a step 2. But, if you've got people who've got higher than that, the trainer guides have got some extension activities and flexible activities. So they're all meant to be, you can use them as they are, but we would recommend that you really have a good look at them, because if you use them as they are, people might get a bit overwhelmed by some of the aspects. So thank you very much.